Hi there, smart drivers, talking to you tonight about smarter defensive driving, skills and abilities and techniques that you need to put in place to become a safer, smarter driver. And today we're going to give you those skills, abilities, and techniques so that you can significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. Smarter defensive driving and space. If you want to boil down the smarter defensive driving into its core components, it's just two things. All right, and those two things are space in front, okay, 3 to 4 second following distance, and stopping in traffic so that you can see the tires in front making clear contact with the pavement. That's your landmark, and it's approximately 1 vehicle length behind the vehicle in front of you. As well, you need a backup. Okay, every time you do something, back up. So you're going to observe, and your backup is communication. You're going to signal. You're going to position your vehicle correctly on the roadway. You're going to get eye contact with other road users. You're going to have hand gestures to tell them whether they should stay put or that they can cross, or those types of things. So defensive driving, space management. If you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. All right, for those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauling freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. I was in most of the lower 48, except 2 states, I believe. I wasn't in New Mexico, and I haven't been to Utah. So 2 states I haven't been to. Drove buses for Greyhound in the one of the regional bus lines in Australia. While I was going to university at the University of Melbourne. 2006, graduated with my doctorate in legal history. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1998. Most of my driving instruction has been with bigger vehicles, semi-trucks and buses, coaches, transit buses, those types of things. And air brakes, logbooks as well. So you have to know all the lower class stuff to take a higher class license. So if you're going to get a license to drive an ambulance, to drive a bus, a small bus for charity, a semi-truck, dump truck, those types of things, all of the lower class stuff is fair game. They're going to ask you class 5 questions. They're going to ask you right of way and all of the other questions that you had to answer when you got your first license. All right. My doctorate in legal history is the study of policing. Legal history is the study of policing, courts, and prisons, and my expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. And if you want to know more about me, you can check out the complete story over at the Smart Drive Test website. And it's kind of funny too. There's some funny stories about an Australian bloke that I drove buses with, and when I first got there, he trained me, and then he gave it up to go and be a postie. And I met him a few years later, and he gets on my bus, and he's like, oh, what happened to being a postie? And he gets off the bus, and he looks back, and he smiles. He's like, oh, I gave that the ass. So it didn't work out for him, and he was back driving buses. All right, new videos this week. Parallel parking on a one-way street. Have a look at that if you're in the bigger metropolitan cities and going to parallel park on the driver's side as well. 3 tips for driving on unfamiliar roads, and those 3 tips would be: pay attention to the road signs. If you are slowing down to look for an address or a store or shop or something like that, turn on your 4-way flashers to indicate to the other traffic that you're doing something unpredictable. And if you know you're close but you just can't find the address, have a look at the video on Spain when I drove from the airport to the hotel downtown. I went past the hotel. I knew I was close to the hotel, couldn't find it, was tired, had just got off a 20-hour flight, and parked the car and walked to the hotel, which I found out was 2 blocks from the car park where I was at. So if you're tired, fatigued, or you just for whatever reason cannot find the location that you're looking for, park the car and walk. All right. What is driving? Driving is both an art and a science. And the art part is your ability to interpret traffic patterns and determine the actions of individual road users. This is what is going to keep you safe. You need to have calm awareness when you're driving. And as was said here, I believe it was Mr. Doverfield that said aggressive driving, where, you know, it's calm awareness with profanity. We want to try and not have the profanity piece. We just want to be like, hey, oh yeah, you cut us off. Go and have your crash somewhere else. Have a nice day. All the best. Bye-bye. Okay, we have poor forms of communication, and one of the theories about that is the nose to tail theory, or the boot to bonnet, as I like to call it, where we're looking at the back end of the vehicles in front of us. And this is the reason we fail to communicate. Think of it like standing in a line at the grocery store. We're not communicating with the people in front of us because we're looking at their backside, and we're not going to start chatting them up when we're looking at their backside. And it's the same thing with cars and traffic. It's nose to tail. Maybe if we had some sort of open communication that within, 100-foot radius of the cars around us, we could all communicate effectively with the drivers in those vehicles. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? If they come up with new cars where we could all talk to one another. Hey, dumbass, what are you doing there? Let's go. Come on, hurry up. But you don't want to say that, so let's say code. Mr. Dumas, Mrs. Dumas, which is code for, Anyway, rudimentary communication, and also with the smarter defensive driving, as I was saying previously, you always want to have a backup. You want to double check. So you want to shoulder check twice before you change directions of the vehicle. And the backup that you're having is signaling when you're changing directions of the vehicle to indicate to other road users that you were in fact changing directions of the vehicle in case you missed seeing them when you were driving. All right, proactive driving, okay, and this is without the profanity. Social driving, this is the way that everybody else drives in the driving environment in which you drive, where it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in Europe, Australia, China, maybe China's a little bit different, but for the most part, North America, it is all the same. People follow too close, they speed, they don't come to complete stops at stop-signed intersections, they drive over painted islands, they do all kinds of goofy, crazy things. And one of the reasons that I say space management, space in front is your biggest tool for driving is because the #1 crashes in North America is rear end crashes. Rear end crashes. We are following too close to other traffic and hoping on a wing and a prayer that we can get our vehicle stopped in time, and we don't. Okay, speed management, posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. I advocate that you keep up with the flow of traffic. It makes you more predictable, but space trumps speed every time. Even if you're doing 100 miles an hour, you still want to be 4 seconds behind the vehicle in front of you. For those of you driving on the Autobahn, like Klaus and other very fortunate people that can drive on the Autobahn, you still want that space behind other traffic on the roadway, because as I say, if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. And as well, space buys you time, time buys you options, options reduce the chances of being involved in a crash. Communication, we talked about this. This is the same as the skill and technique you need for getting your license. Position of your vehicle on the roadway, or the position of the road user in relation to the road or on the road, is going to communicate intent. For example, if you're in the left turning lane, there's a high probability that you're going to turn left. If the pedestrian is standing near the crosswalk, there's a high probability that he or she is going to cross the roadway. All right. Lights and signals, eye contact, hand gestures. Don't tell another road user that they're #1. All right. And then finally, use of the horn. In some countries, the horn is going to be a form of communication. If you're in Italy, yes, indeed. Or you're in China, yes, indeed. The horn is going to be seen as a sign of communication. Here in North America, the horn is going to be seen as a sign of aggression. All right, so that's communication, observation, forward scanning pattern, shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking. This is a skill that you should not lose ever. Okay, it's not going to save you today, maybe not even tomorrow or next month or next year, but in 5 years, shoulder checking may see you finding somebody that you completely unexpected in your blind area when you're going to change directions of the vehicle. So shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. As I say, not shoulder checking is to driving what not checking to see if a weapon is loaded is to gun safety. You would never pick up a gun and not check to see whether it was loaded, okay? And if you just ask Alex Baldwin about that. Always check to see if a firearm is loaded. The same thing with a motor vehicle. Why on any planet would you drive a 2,500-pound vehicle at speed, change directions, and not check to see whether somebody was in your blind area? All right, so observation, shoulder checking, reversing, 360-degree scan. Use all your tools available. Use your backup camera, use your mirrors, look out the back windows. All of this is going to keep you safe when you're driving. minimum safe distance, and you can always manage space in front of your vehicle. Everything else is beyond your control, the other three sides, okay? And most defensive driving models were created prior to 1970 when traffic was pretty light on our roadways. Now we need different tactics, techniques, and skills to keep ourselves safe on the roadways, okay? Stay away from other road users, other fixed objects. A fixed object is light standards, anything that doesn't move on the roadways that you could potentially run into and strike. Okay, and to repeat again, space buys you time, time buys you options, options prevent crashes and significantly reduce your chances of being involved in one. When on highways, freeways, and interstates, drive between the clusters of vehicles. For whatever reason, there is some magical force out there on the highways that causes groups of drivers to drive up and down our roadways. And you can see the cluster here in this image off to the right here. All of the vehicles are just grouped right up together. And there's a vehicle out there and a vehicle out there. And there's all this space here where you could drive in and be much, much safer. Okay? Speed management will allow you to control space and always have a buffer of space between you and other road users. All right. Rear end crashes. This is stopping behind other traffic, one vehicle length, and you're going to be able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the roadway. That is your landmark. And there are several reasons why you want to do this. Once, it's a defensive posturing against being rear-ended by other traffic. If you change your mind where you're going to go and you want to go somewhere else, you can move out and around without reversing, because you do not want to reverse in traffic. That is just a no-no. That is a golden rule. All right. If the vehicle in front of you rolls backwards, if it's a manual transmission for all of you driving in Europe, then this vehicle in front of you is not going to strike you. And in some magical utopian world of which I dream at nights when I'm under the covers, dreaming of popsicles and other tasty treats, all the traffic could move off together, and this would actually help to reduce congestion in our roadways. But this is not going to happen, okay? People are going to pack up there tight, bumper to bumper, 1 foot off the bumper in front, but that is not your best defensive strategy. All right, if you're following too close, you are giving up your power. You are giving it to the other person in front of you, and you're hoping on a wing and a prayer that you can react fast enough that you don't rear end the person. Statistics say otherwise. You cannot react fast enough. So you want to create that space in front of your vehicle so that you respond accordingly, because space gives you time, time gives you options, and you want to respond with different choices, okay? And if we have predictable actions according to the road rules and cultures of our roadways, we are going to be less likely to be involved in a crash. Okay, predict traffic patterns. And this again is another tool, another result of having space in front of our vehicles, because we can predict traffic patterns and interpret the actions of individual road users. Turning lanes, you need to be in the outside turning lane, looking for rubberneckers and anything out of the ordinary. One of the things that you can know for certain in terms of traffic patterns, if there is an emergency vehicle pulled over on the side of the road, whether a police officer has a speeder pulled over or there is a crash and emergency crews are responding, traffic is going to slow down because everybody is rubbernecking and wants to see what's going on. Okay, know the characteristics of other vehicles and road users. In the spring, it's going to be motorcycles. In the summer, it's going to be RVs and camper units. And in the wintertime, it's going to be snowmobiles. And then, of course, if you're in the country, it's going to be farm machinery. If you're in an industrial area, it's going to be forklifts and other types of industrial machinery out on the roadways. So think about your driving environments. And we talked about this last week in terms of situational awareness. Interpret the actions of individual road users by looking farther down the road, interpreting vehicles' movements, paying attention to your driving, and maintaining the space buffer, that space in front of your vehicle. And the reason we want to do that is because defensive driving just isn't to compensate for the other goofy people on the road. We too make mistakes when we're driving. And defensive driving is for us to put in place habits and develop habits that are going to keep us safe even when we're tired. Mapping and tracking intersections, and tracking road users at those intersections. 40% of crashes occur at intersections. Where are the intersections? Who is going to cross our path of travels? And scan intersections before entering, because that opening statistic, 40% of crashes happen at intersections. All right, good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer. Not necessarily the right answer. Road test is tomorrow. Any tips for first time, never driven before? Hopefully, if you're doing your road test, you have driven before. I'm thinking what you're saying is that you haven't done your driver's test yet, okay? Retired, I just bought 4 new tires after putting 55,000 miles on my original tires. Good purchase, awesome. And retired, I think we were talking about that a few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, about where to pick up tires. Where did you end up getting your tires from? 55,000 miles, that's a good length of time for a set of tires, so you're doing well there. Awesome. Awesome. Yes, so tips for driver's test. You need 4 components in place to pass your driver's test. The way that everybody else drives on the road is what is termed social driving. They don't come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. They speed. They follow too close. Those are just some of the major characteristics of social driving. And if you drive the way that everybody else drives on the roadway, you will not pass your driver's test. So the 4 components that you need in place: space management, observation communication, and speed management. Speed management is down at the bottom. Space management is the most important, okay? Because if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit anything. And if you're far enough back and create that space in front of your vehicle, that 3 to 4 second following distance, you're going to be able to read traffic patterns and interpret the actions of individual road users. That's what you need to do. That is the most important thing for test day. All right, and Corey's put up the playlist for final days. Thank you for that, Corey. Space management, observation. You need to have a forward scanning pattern. Far down the road, look at your instrument panel. Far down the road, center mirror, far down the road, and then each wing mirror. Okay, and repeating that every 10 to 15 seconds. Your scanning pattern is tied into your speed control. So if you're not adjusting your speed every 10 to 15 seconds, it tells the examiner that you are not scanning correctly, because those 2 things are linked. They work in tandem. All right, changing lanes, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. I cannot stress shoulder checking enough. If you don't know how to shoulder check, Corey will put up the video for you on shoulder checking. All right, space management, observation, 360-degree scan around the vehicle before reversing for parking. Okay, out through the back window. You can look at a backup camera, you can look at your mirrors, but you can't use them as your primary line of sight. Communication, and you need to have a backup. Okay, we're going to observe, we're going to look, but there's lots of people who believe that if there's nobody else around, they don't have to signal. They don't have to communicate with other traffic. So if we miss something, we want to have a backup. So we're going to communicate effectively. The 5 ways that we communicate with other traffic: the position of our vehicle on the roadway, or where the road user is on the roadway, lights and signals, hand gestures, eye contact, and lastly, the horn. In North America, the horn is seen as a sign of aggression, so use it sparingly. I mean, if you're on a residential street and there's some kids running down the road or whatnot, then yeah, light tap on your horn. Or somebody's looking at their phone, sitting at the traffic light, and they're not going, then yeah, light tap on your phone, or on your horn, rather, not your phone. That's not going to do you any good. Your horn, to tell them that they need to get going. And then last is speed control, okay? Posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. Those are the 4 components: space management, observation, communication, and speed management. That's what you need in place to pass your driver's test. Francesca, how are you, my friend? Mr. Deverfield, defensive driving. I prefer offensive driving. It's like defensive driving, but with more profanity. Yes, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who do that. I know that I engage in that profane use of language while I'm driving. Ross, and hey Rick, I passed my driving test on Friday with a perfect score in Ohio, and that is awesome news, Ross, and thank you so much for dropping back and letting us know. And I know that you have done the work. Luck favors the prepared, so congratulations on all your hard work and passing first time. Jason, I'm currently working on getting my driver's license now. Awesome. Do you have your learner's license, Jason? Is that where you're at? Retired, purchased tires at trusted local tire shop. Awesome. And the thing that I like about tire shops retired is that free tire rotations, and as well usually free puncture repair. The last time I went to a tire shop, and I found out why, because they sold the tire shop, they started charging $4 for a repair on a tire, which is not cool, because the more reputable tire shops, if you purchase the tires at that shop and you get a puncture in the tire and take it back, they will fix it for free. So this is one of the reasons why I always like taking it to a local tire shop, as you just said. Free tire rotations and free puncture repair on your tires that you purchased at that shop. Delverfield, awesome. Elvin, I need an example about how to do the pullover. Elvin, which pullover? Are you talking about the emergency pullover in Ontario? Is that the one you're talking about? Elevator, I flashed my high beams at the left lane squatters, and my mom told me not to flash at left lane squatters. Elevator fan, yeah, keep them honest. Flash your lights at them, honk your horn. Antics, I passed my driver's test today. Congratulations on passing your driver's test today. That is awesome, my friend. Thank you for stopping back and letting us know that you were successful on your driver's test. Lorena, aiming to pass my road test by the help of your helpful guides and tips. Avid viewer here in Regina, Saskatchewan. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Lorena, for your kind words. And you're going to do it. You're going to get your license, my friend. Rawson, I still watch your videos, and I will always drive like a normal driver. Not sure there's such a thing as a normal driver. Smarter driver. Drive like a smarter driver, Rawson. You're going to do awesome, my friend. Failed my first driver's test here in Regina last Friday, and I have my second road test scheduled for the 19th of January, hoping it will be my last driver's test. Excellent, yes. And Lorena, Corey will put up the video for you on passing your driver's test in the wintertime, why it's going to be easier. So don't get freaked out just because there's a bit of snow on the road. It's actually going to make it easier for you and help you out. Marion, being late, last 30 minutes on call to a company. I feel you, Marion. There's nothing I love more than knowing I have to call TELUS. I know that it's going to be at least 2 hours. Any big company, you get stuck in that phone tree. You keep punching the numbers, hoping for some human person to talk to you on the other end. You know, I hear you. I hear you. Queen K, thanks for all your teaching. I passed my driver's test yesterday after 3 tries in Massachusetts. Awesome, Queen K. Congratulations on passing your driver's test there in Massachusetts. That is awesome, my friend. Elevator, do you teach your students to flash their high beams and honk their horns at left lane squatters? Elevator fan, I do not. If we were doing remedial training after they had their license and they already had their license and didn't have to do a test, yes, maybe, but not as a rule. No, that's generally something I do when I'm driving a sports car like the Audi of Tracy's Audi. Yeah. Marion, I'm doing well, thank you. You are most welcome. I am awesome on a Monday. It's been busy. Tracy's dad died on the weekend, and so she went to Calgary, and she was moving from a 1-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom apartment in the same building. And so I have been doing that this weekend, and actually that's what we're going to finish up tomorrow. And that's why I can't be here for the live stream tomorrow. And that's why it's on Monday instead of Tuesday. So yes, doing really well. Endless music over and over again. Yes. And it's not music, Marion, is it? It's that Muzak. Or did they play a radio station for you? I love it when you get that Muzak, that elevator music that you're playing on when you're listening on hold. It's almost like, we got you on hold. You can't do anything. You're just stuck here. It's so demoralizing. Rawson, hey, question, can you accidentally stall an automatic transmission? Rawson, can you automatically, you would need to work pretty hard at that. Actually, yeah, you would, I don't think you can, but you know, I caveat to that, students can amaze you in some of the things that they can do with an automobile or with a truck or anything else. Yeah, there are, I'm not going to say no, but not as a rule are you going to be able to stall an automatic car. No. Klaus, what's your tips for driving in India? That's a serious question. Yeah. Klaus, I can't comment on that authoritatively because I haven't been to India. I have been to China, and I have to say it's just a matter of doing what they do. Okay, you can try and manage that space in front of your vehicle, but you know, there is just so much traffic. There are so many vehicles on the roadway and so many different kinds of vehicles. India, I am guessing, is similar to China. When I was there in Beijing, early 2000s, I was in China, and they still have oxen and cart going up and down the roadways. They still have horse and buggy. They still have horse riders. Not to mention all of the other, you know, the tricycle, the motorized tricycles, the bicycles, the tricycles, everything going up and down the roadway. So it's going to be really tough to drive on those streets. You're just going to have to do what other people do. Make sure you have insurance on the vehicle if you're renting a vehicle. Okay. Awesome. Nope, it's the music, and it is slightly out of tune as well, which makes it worse. Awesome. Yep. Yep. Over and over. Excellent. Okay. Elevator, do you teach your student? Okay, no, I already answered that question. Passed my road test yesterday after 3 tries. Awesome. Congratulations. All right. Oh, Rawson, what is the buggy? The buggy is my 1998 Honda CR-V. Sorry about that. Yeah, I need to keep saying that, that it is my 1998 Honda CR-V, which is in the shop yet again, and I hope that they get it fixed because I'm getting really annoyed with the buggy in and out of the shop. All right, okay. Defensive driving, space in front of your vehicle. That is the most important part of keeping yourself safe on the roadways, and other traffic is not doing that. You have social pressure. Okay, within the arena of social driving, social pressure is real. And that social pressure when you're driving, especially for new drivers who are susceptible to that, are always saying, oh, hurry up and go, hurry up and go, hurry up and go, hurry up and go. I don't want to get in the way of other people and have them honking horns at me and telling me I'm number one. Okay, so this causes us to conform to the way that everybody else is driving. And we think, and we're led to believe by the tenets of social driving, that if we leave space in front of our vehicle, that other people are going to honk at us. We believe that if we manage that 3 to 4 second following distance, that all your friends who participate in social driving, like 12 cars, are going to all of a sudden come and they're going to move in front of that space in front of you. All of that is a myth and a misbelief. It's not true. I drive like that every day. I stop back 1 vehicle length from the traffic in front of me when I'm stopped in traffic, and I always have a 3 to 4 second following distance in front of me. I will not give up that space in front of my vehicle. And this is, it doesn't matter what kind of traffic I'm in, whether I'm on the highway, I'm in congested traffic, you know, and I tried this out, and unfortunately, I didn't catch it on my dash cam. I was hoping to. I was in backed up traffic for an hour in Vancouver, and I tried that, keeping that kind of 10 car lengths between me and the car in front of me so that I could just stay in first gear and just chug along in the congestion. In the hour, 2 vehicles moved in front of me. 2 vehicles. Okay? So know that it can be done. I know that it goes against everything else that the driving environment is telling you. And if there's one thing that we need as human beings, we need to fit in. We need to fit in. We need to conform and do what everybody else is doing. But defensive driving, smarter defensive driving, is you doing something different than what everybody else is doing, because that way it's going to keep you safe and significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash on our roadways. And I have tried this smarter driving skills, abilities, and techniques all over the world. North America, Europe, Australia. Okay, I have driven in all these countries and it works. Okay, and it will keep you safe. Cario, hello, my friend. It is important to leave even more space than one normally leaves in front of one's vehicle if you have a gator behind you. A tailgater, yes, a tailgater behind you. It was the gator. I'm like, what? Like an alligator? A tailgater, yes, indeed, because now you need to drive for yourself, you need to drive your car, and you need to drive the car for the goofball behind you as well. Yes, indeed, okay? Marion, that's exactly what I am finding here at the moment. I feel I need to move so people don't get mad at me. I do sometimes feel lots of pressure while out there on the roads. And yes, Marion, that's going to happen. You're going to feel like other people are like, they're glazing at you. Oh, you evil driver. Conform, conform. That's what they're saying to you. And we feel it. We feel it. We feel the pressure. With all those people looking at you going, conform. Do what we do. Okay? And they're not. They couldn't give a rat's bum what you're doing. They really couldn't. Hater, how do you trade lanes, change lanes safely in highway when people trying to exit and people trying to merge? Okay, Hater, those don't exist anymore. There are a few of them, and I don't know what the names they are, where the on-ramp and the exit lane are the same, one and the same. Okay, those are dangerous, and they've gotten rid of them because they've caused a lot of crashes. So know that they've gotten rid of those, all right? Okay, but again, it's about managing space, it's about observing correctly, it's about interpreting traffic patterns and understanding the individual actions of road users on the roadway and having a backup. Shoulder checking, moving your head, okay? You cannot be static in the car. You can't be sitting there like this. You got to be moving your head. And sometimes, because you've got the A pillar here at the front, and the other one on the passenger side, sometimes you got to be moving forward, you got to be moving back, you got to be looking around the mirror because there are blind areas in the vehicle. So know that when you're driving, you're moving your body. It's a full body experience, all right? And where all of this came from is my years of driving tractor trailer, okay? The bigger the vehicle, the more critical space becomes when you're driving, because we want to be lazy truck drivers. Think of it as being a lazy truck driver. We're doing the lazy truck driver defensive driving move. Space in front so we can keep the vehicle moving. All right, you want to control that space in front of your vehicle using the accelerator, not the brake. If you're on the brake all the time, you are too close to the cars in front of you. There's an indicator right there. Just start thinking and being aware of how much you're touching the brake pedal. If you're touching the brake pedal going downhill on a highway, you're probably too close to the traffic in front of you. Okay, you shouldn't be touching the brake. You should be anticipating traffic, understanding traffic patterns, and being able to use the throttle, using the accelerator to control space in front of your vehicle. If you can do that, again, that is another piece, another detail in the puzzle of defensive driving that is going to significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. Hater, there's some of them in your area where you live. Yes, there are a few of them left around, but as I said, they're getting rid of them as they're reconstructing the roads because they know that they're not safe. There's just simply too much going on when you're driving, when the on-ramp and the off-ramp are one and the same. But again, you got to keep in mind, you know, you got to be aware. You got to be scanning, shoulder checking, looking, picking your spot. So if you're going to merge out onto the highway, and this is one of the most frequently asked questions that I get is how do I merge out onto the roadway if nobody's going to let me in? People don't have to let you in. Okay, they are under no obligation to let you out on the highway. The onus of responsibility of merging safely out onto the freeway is on the merging driver. So when you're coming out on the on-ramp and you can see the highway, you can see the lane of traffic where you're going to be merging into, pick your spot. Okay, there's a red car and a blue car, and I'm going to merge in between those two cars. If you have a spot to aim for, it's going to be easier to get your vehicle up to speed so you can move into that spot. So pick your spot early and merge into that spot. If there's a semi-truck out on the roadway, merge behind the semi-truck. Don't try and race the semi-truck, okay? Merge in behind it. That's a lot safer. And then get out around the semi-truck and take off, all right? Carrio, if an intersection, someone honks at you and you know it is not safe to go, it is important to ignore the honker and only go when they know it is safe to go. Yes, absolutely, because the onus of safety is on you, not the person who's honking. Just give them the finger and tell them to go and Pound salt, as my mom likes to say. I'm not sure how you go and pound salt, but you can tell them to go and do that. Problems too, if I don't move fast enough, I get honked at. It has happened a few times. Yeah, just ignore people who are honking at you, because, you know, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it regardless, you know, because they got nothing better to do and they need to get their frustration out. And so that's what they do. Rawson is shoulder checking and blind spot check the same thing, because I call it blind spot check. Rawson, yes, they are the same thing, my friend. Thank you for asking that. Blind spot, checking your blind spots, and shoulder checking, shoulder there, check my shoulder, check my shoulder. Yes, those are one and the same thing, my friend. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Elevator fan, if I had a truck speed up while I was trying to pass, if someone else is passing you, do not increase your speed. Yes, okay, and actually, you know, you can just let off the accelerator a little bit and slow down and let the truck pass you so that they can get back in. Corey, in Winnipeg, we have them acceleration and deceleration combos on their perimeter intersection bridges. Yeah, I'm not sure, Corey, why they do that anymore. We know that these things aren't safe. They confuse drivers. There's simply too much going on acceleration, on ramps and exit ramps, one and the same thing. I know there's a name for them. I've seen them in the handbooks before, and I've been on them, and they're a bit tricky for sure, especially for new drivers. I can't imagine new drivers having trouble merging. Yes, challenging for sure. Hater, let's say the middle lane is empty, you in the rightmost lane, there's another car in the most left lane, both of you decided to change lanes in the middle. How to avoid something like that? Shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking, Hayden. So you're going to shoulder check. You know there's another car over there. Okay, you're in the right-hand lane, the car's in the left-hand lane, and the middle lane is empty. You're going to put your signal on. Signal's on this side, not on that side of the steering wheel. It's on this side of the steering wheel. Okay, shoulder check, check your mirrors, look forward again. 3 flashes minimum on the signal. You're going to shoulder check again as you're moving, and you're going to shoulder check, okay? And you see that other vehicle starting to come over, then you're going to abort, okay? One of you is going to abort, one of you is going to, you're going to give it up. Now, saying that, and this comes back to defensive driving skills, abilities, and techniques, and this is an advanced information, all right? You have the choice in a crash. Crash is imminent, and you have a choice between a head-on crash and a sideswipe crash. Pick the sideswipe crash every time. Sideswipe crashes almost always result in property damage. Just damage to the vehicles, okay? You are going to survive a sideswipe crash. You are not going to survive a head-on crash. And there's an article down in the description. Have a look down in the description there. Why you should be more afraid of driving, which is an article. I think it's in the Atlantic Post. And it was a journalist who was involved in a crash and swerved to miss somebody who pulled out from a side street. And instead of sideswiping the car that pulled out, because he could have sideswiped this car, he swerved into oncoming traffic, hit a big jacked up 350 Chevy, and the jacked up 350 Chevy come up over the hood and basically crushed the dash onto his legs. And he spent months and months and months convalescing and learning how to walk again. Had he just sideswiped the car that came out of the side street, it would have been just property damage, and he probably would not have been injured. So this is another piece of the smarter defensive driving model. Always pick the sideswipe crash, because you're going to survive the sideswipe crash. Corey, the usual rule of thumb on combo, the one decelerating tries to get behind the one that's accelerating. Yes, and that is a good rule of thumb, because the cars are coming out, they're accelerating, they're taking off. You want to get off the throttle, get in behind them, and then go into the deceleration lane and exit off onto the roadway. Okay, so Corey's put up the video on how to correctly merge onto the highway. Rawson, some people don't check their blind spots. Yes, actually, Rawson, if you want to know the truth, most people don't shoulder check. And contrary to what they tell you on the polls, on the community tab here on the Smart Drive Test website, or on the YouTube channel rather, they don't. Okay, if 60% of people tell you that they shoulder check, they don't. I would guess that the number for shoulder checking is probably below 20%. That would be my professional opinion about people shoulder checking. Cario, thanks for this awesome live stream on defensive driving. Got to go to meet some friends, but wanted to say thank you. Cario, you are most welcome, my friend. Thank you for dropping in and being part of the Smarter Driver community. All the best, my friend. Marion, there's one of those intersections in Vancouver. It is very short on-ramp, off-ramp, and it's just after a corner as well, so stick to the left lane to pass the off-ramp. Yes. Goofy things. Goofy things. They're an invention left over from the 1950s, 1960s, when traffic was not as heavy as it is now. And, you know, they worked well at the time when you didn't have as much traffic, because the chances of 3 cars coming onto the highway and 3 cars getting off at the same time was nil to none. Okay, it rarely happened. There might have been 1 or 2 cars at the same time. But now we have so much traffic that this type of road infrastructure simply doesn't work. Weird, but some other drivers are like Elon Musk, just ignorant. Yes. I don't like to speak ill of people, but I used to think to myself that Elon Musk must be really smart. He's got lots of money. He's got a rocket ship company. He started Tesla and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, the more that I go on, it's like, oh, now he's bought Twitter, you know, formerly Twitter. The X thing did not catch on. I'm sorry to say, the X thing has not caught on. I don't call it, it's formerly Twitter. It's now like Prince. The artist once formerly known as Prince. The social media platform once known as Twitter is what it is. Formerly Twitter. That didn't work out at all for him. That just is not caught on. And people don't say X. They're like formerly Twitter. It's Twitter. Sorry. I digress. Moving on. Defensive driving. We're talking about defensive driving today. Now, the other piece about defensive driving and speeding is that people believe that obeying traffic laws will keep you safe. Okay? Obeying traffic laws will not keep you safe. Okay? I will say that unequivocally. Okay? Traffic laws no more prevent crashes than criminal law prevents crime. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So if you think that you're going to go out there and you're going to drive and you're going to do everything according to the law, it's not going to keep you safe. It's not going to make you a safer driver. Okay? So keep up with traffic flow. Be a predictable driver. What can I say about defensive driving? Okay, there, Gustav, 2 things that you need to do to be a safer, smarter driver and to be a better defensive driver. Space in front. 3 to 4 second following distance. You should be controlling space in front of your vehicle with the accelerator. Not all the time, obviously, but as much as you can. 80% of the time, you should be controlling space in front of your vehicle using the accelerator, okay? So you're reading and interpreting traffic patterns in front and you're adjusting your speed accordingly with the accelerator. If you are too close and on the brake all the time, you are not reading and responding to traffic patterns in front of you. You are reacting and you're following too close. And the #1 crash in North America, and I suspect most of the world, is rear end crashes. #1 insurance reported crash is rear end crashes, even more so than windshield damage. So, okay, know that. Increase your following distance, stop in traffic 1 vehicle length back from the vehicle in front of you, and your landmark for that is to be able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the pavement. This works for every vehicle, cars, buses, trucks. We used to teach it in the semi-truck. It works for every vehicle, and there's several reasons why you can do that. But if you can put those 2 simple skills in place, it's going to improve your overall driving, okay? Ross, and I do get a good habit of applying the parking brake in an automatic. I know most people don't, but it's a great habit. Do it to secure the vehicle and it won't run away. It'll still be there when you get back. Absolutely, okay? So apply the parking brake every time you park the vehicle, not just in a manual car, but also in an automatic car, okay? And people say to me, well, that's what park's for in the transmission. No, it's not. The brakes are designed to hold the car. And this is why in new cars, The parking brake applies automatically when you put the transmission into park, because the brakes are designed to hold the vehicle, not the transmission. The transmission is a backup. We want a backup in our driving. This is why we use observation and communication in tandem. Okay, we looked around, we observed, but then we turned on our signal to communicate to other traffic just in case we miss somebody. Okay, so we want to have a backup. That's why we shoulder check twice. That's why before we pull out into busy traffic from a minor road onto a major road, we're going to look twice. Okay, we're going to make sure if we're making a left-hand turn from a side street out onto another road, just before we cross that center line, we're looking again to make sure that there isn't traffic coming that we missed. So we have a backup. So space in front, stopping in traffic one vehicle length back, and having a backup when you're driving is going to make you a safer, smarter driver. Klaus, Tesla is a car you can buy if you have $1 million or euros, because it has so many issues with the electric and suspension systems. Yes, it does. The kid's mother had a Tesla, and the steering, was it the steering? Yes, the steering pump went out of it. They put it on a diesel truck. They shipped it 5 hours to Vancouver. They fixed it. They put it back on a diesel truck, and they shipped it another 5 hours back to Kelowna to have it repaired. And this basically couldn't get their car repaired here where we live in the interior of British Columbia. It had to be shipped to the coast to Vancouver to have it repaired. Rawson, okay, awesome, excellent. And yes, and if we're all complaining about inflation, talking about cars, Tracy just recently came back from Italy, and in Italy, a Volkswagen Golf was 65,000 euros, which is $100,000 Canadian. So that would be $65,000. 65,000 euros would be about $80,000 US. So we're not the only ones dealing with inflation, and inflation in Europe is actually even more so than it is here in North America. Marion, I love watching traffic ahead of me. If traffic is stopping ahead, you see their brake lights coming down in the line. I take my foot off the pedal, and by the time I need to stop them, I'm all stopped. Excellent. Yes, Marion. And the other piece about that, Marion, and the advanced skill about that is you see the brake lights coming on as they're slowing down. Also, the other thing is they start, all the traffic, all the vehicles bunch up. That's the other indicator in tandem with brake lights coming on, is the spaces between the vehicles actually get smaller as they slow down. Rawson, have you thought about getting a new vehicle? Rawson, yes, I have thought about getting a new vehicle, but the engine in the buggy just keeps going. Everything around the engine is falling off of it, but the engine keeps going. Elevator, I was tailgated today and I got frustrated with them. I did a quick tap on the brake. Yeah, and a lot of times that will get their attention and they will usually back off again. I find I don't get tailgated a lot when I'm driving, but I do find that what will happen is that people will come up and they'll be right in behind you, and you look in the mirror and they're like, you can't see their headlights, they're so close behind you. And then, you know, you're driving with the traffic flow, so you're in a 30-mile-an-hour zone and you're doing 35 or 37 miles an hour, and then you look and they've backed off, okay, because they're not tailgating anymore. So I find that a lot of times when I'm driving and I'm being predictable and I'm keeping up with traffic flow, that's what's happening, that they kind of come up, misjudge the space, and then they back off and they regain that space afterwards. Electric cars should be the future, not so fast. Yeah, electric cars, Klaus, we are not ready for electric cars. And it's interesting. I was talking to somebody about it the other day in terms of, you know, right now on YouTube and the internet, and everybody's talking about AI. AI is the big fad right now. It's like, oh my God, you got to get on board with AI and have this and do this and look at these tools and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. AI on the internet right now is what electric cars were in 2018. Okay, everybody was like, oh my God, electric cars, electric cars, electric cars. They're going to fix the future. They're going to be the next wave of the next revolution. It's like, no, electric cars are gone. I mean, People are still going to buy them and those types of things, but really hybrids are the way to go because they work together in tandem. You get your regen braking, you get, you know, you can work on fuel, you can work on electricity, and the two of them work really well. And I mean, the Prius has proved that. I mean, the Prius has been around forever, and taxi cabs and whatnot. Yes, hybrids, right? And there is a place for this, but we're not ready for fully electric. We just do not have the battery technology in place yet. And they got a little ahead of themselves with electric cars. And unfortunately, what's happened is they've made people who are advocates of the electric car move against them, right? It kind of backfired because now a whole group of people that would have supported the move towards electricity and electric cars and alternative fuel sources are now like, oh yeah, that doesn't work at all. So this is what's happening. And the other thing is that what we need to do is we need to promote choice, right? Unfortunately, public transportation does not work in low density populations. Where I live, for example, you cannot get around here without a car. You have to have a car. The public transit is terrible. Okay, you have to have high density cities, New York City, Chicago, you know, Stuttgart, Germany, you know, Paris. All these places in Europe, trains work, public transit works because you have a high density population. And when you have a high density population, public transit works. When I lived in Melbourne, Australia, for example, for 5 years, I never owned a car. If I needed a car, I went and hired a car. I rode my bicycle. I took public transit because I never looked at a transit schedule the entire time I was in Melbourne, because you would just walk down to get on the tram, and a tram came every 8 minutes. So why would you need a car? You take rail or whatnot, right? Just hire a car whenever you needed to go out of town and those types of things. So we need to promote choice. We need to get people with choice, right? And in North America, they need to learn how to build bike paths because you know, their bike paths are terrible. Most of them I wouldn't even ride on. Staby, good evening. Why do other road users get angry when you're driving defensively in St. John, New Brunswick? There are so many people driving that are quite crazy. Staby, it's not just St. John's, or St. John rather, you're in New Brunswick. My apologies, it's St. John. Not just St. John, my friend. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Everybody is engaging in social driving, so it's not just you, my friend. Marion, the electric car battery is more expensive than the car. It's crazy. Yes, indeed. Klaus, buy another Honda CR-V and put the engine from the CR-V in the other Honda CR-V. Yes, I was thinking that the other day, that I needed a Honda CR-V sitting in my backyard for parts. Yeah, but that's not attractive. That's not attractive. Corey, there are perhaps still the car of the future, just a far more distant future than initially advertised, it seems. Yes, and there's a video here on the channel. I talked about self-driving cars because I think it was 2017 that Elon Musk said that by 2020 we would all be driving around in self-driving cars. Well, that hasn't come to fruition either. And it's self-driving cars is a little bit like AI. It is not as advanced as people think it is. Okay, and I tried AI when it first came out to generate multiple choice questions for the different states for the learner's permit, and they were rudimentary, to say the least. And most of them, I had fact checked quite a number of them. They weren't even reliable in terms of the facts that they were putting forward, or the information that they were putting forward for the different states and Ohio's and those type. You know, the state of Ohio, for example. It wasn't. It wasn't. We couldn't even rely on the facts, the multiple choice questions they were generating. Staby, what's the difference between an CVT transmission engine? I would need to look into that for you, Staby, in terms of a CVT transmission. I just don't know enough about it to be able to tell you that. I know that most transmissions, automatic transmissions, are hydraulic. So maybe somebody else, one of the other smart drivers, could tell us what a CVT transmission is. But let me look into that. Send me an email, Staby, rick@smartdrivetest.com, and I will look that up for you and let you know what the difference is, those different kinds of transmissions, and whether they're reliable or not. Wilson, how do you drive safely on snowy roads while applying brakes most of the time? The vehicle slips. Okay, so Wilson, I suspect you're driving an automatic transmission. One of the things you want to do in an automatic transmission when you're driving on slippery conditions, ice and snow, is you want to pop the transmission into neutral. And if you have a column shift, you just push the column shifter into neutral. It will stop at neutral. It will not go into reverse. Okay, and that disconnects the drivetrain from the engine, and you don't have residual power pushing you forward, and that way you can just use the brakes. If the vehicle starts to slide, release the brakes, allow the tires to spin, to turn, not spin, turn, and then reapply the brakes again. Okay, and that's how you're going to keep maximum control of your vehicle when you're trying to bring it to a stop. Okay, do not gear down. Contrary to what everybody else says, not everybody else, but a few people who, every time I tell them this, have a go at me. You can gear down, blah, 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 blah. Well, if they're telling you not to use cruise control on slippery conditions because you could potentially lose control of your vehicle, why would you gear down? It's the same thing as using cruise control, okay? So don't gear down, just use your brakes. Push the transmission into neutral, and this is why those of us who drive manual cars find it easier to maintain control of the vehicle in the winter time, is because when you start to brake and you push in the clutch, you completely disconnect the drivetrain from the engine, so you don't have any residual power pushing you forward when you're trying to brake. Wyatt, when the stop sign is before a stop line, do you stop at the sign or the line? Hope that makes sense. Yes, it does, Wyatt. Always stop behind the stop line. Doesn't matter where the sign is. It's behind the stop line, behind the crosswalk or sidewalk. If those two conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the road just before entering the intersection. Those are your three stopping positions at stop signs and other controlled intersections, all right? And Corey will put up the video for you on that. Awesome live stream, my friends, smart drivers. If you know the answer for IVT and CVT transmissions, let us know down in the comments. Hit that thumbs up button. If you want to become part of the Smarter Driver community, subscribe to the channel. Definitely check out Pass Your Driver's Test First Time Course Package over at the Smart Drive Test website. On sale this week for $38 US. And we throw in both the winter and defensive driving smart courses as a bonus. Congratulations to all of you who passed the driver's test in the last couple of weeks. Awesome, awesome. The test coming up in the next week or so. Good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.